So with the release of Football Manager 2022, you might be wondering what the best tips you can get from some experienced players are. Well, I've reached out to them on Twitter and got some real good feedback and processed it together so that you don't have to. Please note that this video is not about getting the most wins, going undefeated, and is no way, shape and form a tactic tester or anything along those lines. So first of all, how to play the game. We're going to want to pick this up from your favourite gaming retailer, whether that be from the Steam store, the Epic Games, the Games Pass, or anywhere else that you like to shop. Okay, now that you've got it installed, we can begin with the real content. Tip number 1, pay attention to the detail. Now this comes from Tacticali_ on Twitter and is backed up by Liam MCFC16, who followed it with read the emails. This might sound odd in a very much detail orientated game, but when you're like me and you spam through the game just by pressing the space button to get through it as fast as can, and just get into the games, you're going to miss some key facts. These key facts might be work permits that you've applied to buy a player. The work permit's been declined and then you still buy the player and you waste your money, because not only can you not play the player, you're still paying their wages and they're just sat there unless you can get them out on loan to a club where they can get a work permit. Within these emails you will also get such like training updates or scouting reports for future opponents. It might be that that opponent has really good success against the formation you're using, so maybe you want to tweak it a little bit just to ensure that you can maximise your performance in that game. This detail also references to player morale and how they react to certain things. As I like to say, a happy team is a winning team. Keep on top of player morale, whether it's by praising or criticising good and poor performances and individual training performances, or whether it's picking up a player that has won an award, which you would get notified through your emails once again. And this might be Player of the Month, Young Player of the Month, Goal of the Week, Goal of the Month, anything along those lines. Make sure you pick up with that player and say well done. It might even be that they've got their first international cap, etc. These things will boost your player morale, which improves the performance on the pitch. If a player comes to speak to you, try your hardest to make an attempt to speak to them, as sometimes you'll find that gesture alone can put the player's request at ease. However, it's not always that easy and the player will still demand something from you. That might be putting them on the loan list, getting them a transfer, maybe a new contract that they're looking for, or maybe it's that they're not getting the playing time that you have got in their contract. This is a key one, so note that players will ask for the playing time that they have been offered in their contract, so do not overpromise players on what you're going to give them. If you're bringing in a player, make sure you're only giving them an important player role if that's what you're going to be using them as you don't want everyone in your team as an important player, because then you're going to get loads of emails, loads of messages, loads of conversations about why you're not playing them. Tip number 2, thanks to Bully Beef and James Roberts 01 for this one, and it's build your own tactic and don't be afraid if it doesn't work. Now, picking information is one of the first things the game will ask you to do as you get set up in your team. If you're trying to play in a similar style to a team or a manager that you idolise in real life, or you just want to play in a certain way, spend the time to get to know that formation, know what player roles you want to fit in each individual slot, and just give it a try for a while. As Whaleywood on Twitter says, it takes time for your team to get used to playing a certain way. Boost the familiarity by setting in friendlies and training with tactics. Utilising this alongside player bonding or cohesion set exercises after big results can also give you a boost on morale, linking back to the previous tip. If you feel it isn't working and you want to change it, don't scrap the whole tactic and just make a fresh one. Make little tweaks along the way. If you're watching your game, see what positions aren't performing to what you want them to do, and try and improve that, whether it's player roles or the player style, if they're on support, if they're on attack, or if they're on auto. And just go through trial and error with this. It's a huge part of finding what tactic works for you and your team, most importantly. You might find that the players that you have in your club don't fit the certain positions, so you might have to tweak it just to fit the team until you can maybe get to that transfer window and get in a key player that will fit that role and just elevate you to the next level. Tip number 3, set pieces. Thanks to Sai Maggio for this one. Now this one is a bit more down to the nitty gritty detail, but once you've set up your tactic and getting more familiar with the layout of the game, so head to your tactics screen, head across to set pieces, set piece takers, and you'll be able to see your corners, left hand, right hand, free kicks, left hand and right hand, and throw-ins, left hand and right hand. Make sure you have the best players for these positions. If you then head back to set pieces and corners, you'll be able to see your attacking, left and right, see who's on your corners, and you want to put someone with good heading and potentially jump and reach at the front, and maybe it'll mark on the keeper, so you can get the ball in near post and head it. Throw-ins is very similar to this. You want someone with good heading with a long throw, but I advise you go and look into an actual proper video for that. I might even produce one myself, as there is a lot more detail to setting up these set pieces. Tip number 4. Select a save that personally appeals to you. Football Manager is a game that can soak up loads of hours over the next year that you'll be playing this game and into the next generations of games that come out. So you want to make sure that you're setting yourself up with a save that you can get the maximum enjoyment out and really go for that longevity on the save if that's what you're after. So make sure that you're invested in this save, and you want to do that by just picking something that you're interested in. So whether that's a team that you're fond of, maybe they're not performing as well in real life, or maybe you just want to take over them. So if you're a Man United fan, you maybe want to do better than Ole, because anyone could. Or whether it's a challenge that you want to win all the competitions in Europe or the world, for example. So you might want to set yourself on a journeyman where you start and you want to collect all the trophies as you go along. Maybe you want to build a nation, such as the San Marino challenge, where you take a club and you want to elevate every single club in that nation and get them to the number 1 spot if possible. Or maybe it's a local save, maybe it's a non-league to legend save, or a park to glory, or whatever they're called these days. Maybe it's one of those, but make sure you're invested so that you can put the hours in and get the maximum enjoyment out, especially when you go through those slogs and things aren't going your way. You want to make sure that you're still enjoying the save as much as possible. Tip number 5, don't forget your staff. This comes from Scotsman FM on Twitter, saying, good staff are just as important as good players. The staff screen can be seen through the menu on the side where it says staff, and it will detail your level of staffing compared to the rest of the league. So if we take a look at Celtic here, you can see where they have the highest average and where they're missing opportunities in their coaching team. Now, this will prevent the team's players from improving to their potential as they could in certain positions where the coaching levels might be poor. Medical staff are just as important to prevent injuries and reduce injury time suffered. The recruitment team are responsible for identifying new talent, so having better scouts will improve what players are suggested to you and what their actual cap potential is. So yeah, do not forget the staff. Make sure you improve the staff when you join a club and keep improving it as you go on. As the league standard grows, you want to be on top of that as much as possible. So guys, thank you for watching my top 5 videos today on what tips you can get as a beginner to FM22. Make sure you keep an eye out on this channel for more FM content coming soon. There will be loads of it on its way. So why don't you click somewhere on the screen to watch my Squid Game series, it's still ongoing, and click around my face, which will give you a subscribe to keep up to date with the content that's coming out. Thank you very much again for watching, and have an awesome day. I'll see you in the next one.